All right, we're live again. I don't see anyone yet, but we're going to give this a shot and see what happens.
Yep.
Okay, we've got the little eyeball saying that we've got the potential to have watchers.
Excellent.
And yet, I just got the notice for the episode on YouTube, so we should hopefully have people soon. Let me shoot a message onto the Discord that things are going.
Okay. So, as we unfuck our stream here.
Yep. All right. Hey, we've got people back in the chat. Neat. Nice to see y'all. Apologies about that. It is
That was weird.
apparently a day for technical issues. Yeah. So, book, you've got about almost 60,000 words. Half of it's new, half of it's old.
Yep.
How do you feel about how close to the end of the draft do you feel?
I'm not. Because I've realized that as I was writing it, there's no Heathen Esotericism 101 book, which is the required foundation for a Heathen Spirit Work book. So as I'm writing this, I'm realizing there's fuck all out there anymore. Yeah. Because the people that I would normally recommend, I can't recommend anymore.
Because they're Nazis or bastards in other ways.
Right.
Or both.
So, okay, what do I do? Oh, I'm writing it. As it turns out, I'm already in the process of writing Heathen Esotericism 101 because what my original vision for the first part of the book is that it was going to be the 101 section anyway. So, so I just kept. Okay, fine. So now I've taken a step back, reevaluated my trajectory, went, okay, clearly this is not going to fit into one tome.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be like $100 no one would buy the damn thing, and it wouldn't be all that useful as far as a reference or workbook.
Right. If it's, if it's 300 pages, then it's not useful. No one's going to read it.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I enjoyed Artroth Volume 1, 2, and 3. They're tomes that you can kill a person with for a reason. But yeah. So I said, okay, this isn't going to work. Back to the drawing board. So I split the book up into 3. That was okay for a minute. Until I realized there's no way in fuck the information that I want to put into those books is going to fit into 3 books.
I was going to say, so it's more like 5?
More like 5.
So you're looking at what, a rune book?
Well, the first book is going to be Esotericism 101 to provide the basic foundation for approaching esotericism from a heathen perspective.
Okay.
The second book is the basics of spirit work. The third book is runes, just rune work in general. And if anybody who's taken my Encountering the Runes workshop knows at least some of what's going to be in there. Book 4 is going to probably be applied soul work for personal use, for personal work, because one of the things that I love about Winifred Hodge Rose's Heathen Soul Lore website, heathensoullore.net, and her 2 books, Volume 1 and 2, is there's a great deal of information on how to do self-work, but not a lot of information on how to work with the souls for the purpose of doing work for other people or advanced spirit work beyond just self-reflection and getting to know your souls. I'm assuming she's writing that book because she's talked about having more in the series to come out, but I can wait on that or not. It's going to depend on how I feel after the first 3 fucking books I'm writing. The 5th one or the 4th one, depending on how this goes, will be advanced spirit work. And advanced spirit work is going to cover a bunch of topics that I consider advanced.
So like advanced Sather practices, initiatory stuff, things like that.
Ideally, we'll see how the books want to be written. And yeah, my Google Doc went from an outline to 5. Yeah. And I went, fuck. Because now, it only makes sense in this format because of how much groundwork I have to cover in the first book, how much foundation work is required for spirit workers in the second book, and then maybe they're going to be ready for the rune book or advanced spirit work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a body of work, whether I want it to be or not.
Yeah. Also, Melkor saying the mitosis happening in Saren's writing docs is terrifying. Yeah. I'm just waiting for the point where you finally break and start asking people to help you write these books.
I'm not there yet because I want to get the first draft done to see how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And if indeed this is a writing project I can take on solo, because I'm doing about 500 words a day for 5 days out of the week.
Oh, for sure. I'm not doubting your ability to get it done. I won't be surprised if it gets to that point either.
No, me neither. If nothing else, then having people put their 2 cents in on practice that I'm not as familiar with, like I'm sure that heathens would benefit from, hey, pack work. This is how oaths work. This is what being oath-bound means, for instance. You talk to Kat Heath about working with the Alfar, because while I'm developing a relationship with them, I'm not as advanced as she is.
Yeah.
So there's people that I'm looking at in the community going, I could tap you, I could tap you, I could tap you. Cool. And I'm always interested in what folks want to see in the book, because I'm not the audience anymore. So
yeah.
This is the book I'm writing for when I was younger.
Yeah. Speaking of books, and I wanted to mention this on there, in no small part because I don't know if you've read the book, but if you haven't, it might be useful for you to read it, because I think it's very good and in the same realm as what you're doing, at least for the Esotericism 101 book. And it's recommended all the time. But anyway, is Aidan Watcher's 6 Ways. I'm a little over halfway done, and with the caveat that it's like 10 plus years old, and it shows it.
Sure.
And it's chaos magic, and it shows it. And it was written by a Western guy, and it shows it. All of that said, I think it's a good book. And I don't generally praise books on magic. Look, I generally don't. It's pretty solid. He uses chakras, which I'm not a fan of. He uses some other stuff that's clearly from like OTO and Golden Dawn and stuff like that I'm not a huge fan of. It's a good book though. Like,
right.
And it's specifically coming from an animist perspective, an openly and inherently animist perspective, which I really appreciate. And also he leaves and explicitly says pretty constantly, if what I'm saying doesn't work, find something else.
Cool.
Fucking experiment with what you're doing, because if this is not by rote, this is not a formulaic thing, this is finding what works for you. That's how it works.
So something that I'm doing for my book that I kind of want to put out there is that I'm writing sections on how to cleanse, ground, center, and shield using all the senses, not just visualization, which is a problem in a lot of magic texts. That's why it's hard to recommend to folks who don't visualize. Does 6 Ways have more than one way to crack an egg? That's kind of what I'm asking.
Yes and no.
Cool. Then I'm on the right track.
Yeah. He's that's another thing that is worth pointing out, is he's a little visualization focused, but not entirely. There is a decent mention of like, you may or should feel this kind of thing in your body, that kind of thing. It's not entirely visualization focused, but there's a heavy bent towards it. Which actually, thank you for pointing that out, because I didn't really think to look for that, because my visualization is pretty solid.
Right.
So like, it doesn't really bother me that, he's fairly visualization focused. I will keep an eye on that though, and we'll include that in my future caveats, that this is actually probably not super great for folks who don't visualize super well.
So the reason I say that, not only to like tout my own writing, but also just to kind of like put that forward for folks, is that a lot of these magic books, part of the reason why I look at some of them with a jaundiced eye, is besides a lot of Western esotericism being steeped in cultural appropriation and misappropriation, they don't provide a lot of cues for even proprioception.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does this feel when you push this in spirit? They don't include it. They just assume you're going to feel something, or they don't care to talk about it.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, spirit work is a fully visceral experience oftentimes. And so I find that including that is kind of necessary if I'm going to teach people how to do this from the ground up with a book. So, like, for cleansing, grounding, centering, and shielding, I have 3 techniques per sensation. I call them methods. I have 3 methods per sensation to work with taste, touch, sight, smell. And then I have at the end, I have combinations, suggestions for how to combine the different sensations into not only cleansing, grounding, centering, and shielding, but then at the very end of that section, I have a section that I've just finished where I'm doing what's called combination methods, where I'm using the classic tree visualization, but I'm also including cues for the body, cues for what you should taste, touch, etc. There's a technique, there's a method in there where I talk about. It's a combination method of it's a tea sound garden is what I call it, and it is you steep a tea or several teas, either in succession or ahead of time, and then you slap on a pair of noise canceling headphones or earbuds or something. Mm-hmm. And then you play music at the same time as you are taking this tea in. So you don't have to visualize at all to do all your ritual steps before you begin a ritual.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So you could actually carry yourself through a whole ritual doing just tea.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, now that we're talking about it, I'm a little bit mad at myself that I didn't catch the visualizations thing. Because one, I should have, because I know enough people who are who have aphantasia and etc. And also over time, my own visualization has changed and has frankly receded a lot, and I use other senses more when I'm doing active spirit work. Like, it's strong enough that I can read this book and not have a problem, or most books, frankly, and not have a problem. But like, it's not the thing that I focus on most of the time now, and I should have caught that. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit.
I mean, sometimes we need a reminder because we privilege the visual spectrum so much in this country to the point where we don't look at glasses as a disability aid.
Yeah.
It's just something people wear. And it's like, that's not a fashion statement, asshole. I can't see anything without these.
Right. Oh.
Eleanor says something really nice. As someone with fuzzy visualization and neurodivergent, that makes a lot of writers' descriptions not click. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I am fine. I have been terribly nearsighted with astigmatism my entire life. Thank you, premature birth. So, my brain is built a little different from the ground up, genetically as well as physically, because my head was literally shaped weird. So I get it. It's very frustrating when I take these glasses off. I can't see jack shit. Like, I can't see the StreamYard logo on my screen when I take my glasses down. Everything turns into bright spots and dark spots. That's about it. So I'm pretty much legally blind when I take my glasses off. So it's bad. Like, I'm not on the level of blindness for some folks where, like, I can't literally see, but functionally speaking, I can't not wear my glasses.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very frustrating when that full spectrum of human life isn't included for me, because over the years, like, I dealt with it because that's what we had back when I was becoming a pagan and getting into magic and shit, because that's all that was in the books was Visualize yourself as a tree. All right, I can do that. I'm a graphic artist. I can definitely do that. Now what?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be feeling? Because this feels really real.
Yeah. Well, and I mean that's kind of how it goes. We continue as a community to change and grow and get better, and we need to have our resources keep up with that.
Evan Williams Spice Cider, good shit.
Yeah, no, that is quite good. I'm genuinely a fan. I had a thought. Where is it going?
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. This is catch up, so we are in free for all mode, y'all. But yeah. I don't want to get kicked in the head with the books I need to write. The fun part too, though, is with like the packwork stuff. I don't even know if a book will come from it, and that's because that's for two reasons. One, like it's initiated, so it's really hard to write a book about things that are like, well, I can't tell you most of this because until you're initiated, it's all secret, right? Like that's hard. On the other hand, too, we're kind of increasingly finding as we go along that a lot of this stuff doesn't go into words well. And I don't just mean experientially. It's almost like the information doesn't want to be written down.
Right.
It genuinely almost feels like it wants to be an oral tradition with a few specific people coming at it from a specific angle that are allowed to write things down, but only some things and only at certain times. It's like, all right, this is okay.
That seems tedious.
It is, but it's not. It's more of.
I'm more or less poking fun at your spirits. I'm not actually like calling it bullshit. I'm just poking fun because like I get it because having to speak around others is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and it's also part of it too is breaking down as a group. And I'm speaking as a group, even though I really shouldn't, because I shouldn't speak for the group, but I'm going to because I feel like I can in this case, and I'm speaking broadly enough that I think that I'm okay. But regardless, I really feel like we're finding as a group that a big part of this work is breaking down our own preconceptions about what this is supposed to look like, both cultural and subcultural, right? Because like pagandom has an idea of what traditions are supposed to look like.
Right.
A lot of that comes from Wicca and the OTO and the Western mystery tradition. But,
right.
And a lot of it comes from other stuff, but like, and it's really a lot of the work is breaking that down and being like, no, that's not what this looks like. This looks different than that because this isn't that. And so part of it will be oral tradition type things. And some of it I think will get written down by the right people at the right time, but finding that right time and finding those right people to do that. And it's not like, oh, you are the chosen one. It's more like, no, you're filling this role at this time.
Right.
And that's an important distinction. It's not about the great man theory, right? Like, it's not like you are the chosen one. You will do that. No, it's you're in the right place at the right time. Do it. And if you choose not to, cool. Someone else will come along. That's fine. I've been all but told that if I hadn't fucking kicked this shit off, somebody else would have. In fact, I can think of two people right offhand who are in a good position to have done that too.
Real quick, I want to highlight some of the comments here.
Yeah.
So starting first and then going backwards, there's something about wolves howling at Packler being an oral tradition that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I want to point out that it's not just wolves. It's also, anything that has a pack structure.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. Coyotes and dingoes and dogs and jackals are all also part of this.
Malik, I think a book about your experience of founding a tradition and being spirit-led would be interesting, even if you don't get into certain specifics about pack. I agree. I will happily throw you under that fucking bus, too. Because that's one less book I have to write. I love you. Well, you're still drinking. I'm going to read more of these. From Finn, I absolutely love hearing about the projects everyone's working on. Currently launching my Patreon and laying out plans to create my first Oracle deck. Fucking awesome, Finn. Glad to hear it. Glad you launched. You're doing such great work, and I'm proud of you.
That's awesome.
Also, I find it helpful to know what the goal point or what the purpose is of whatever visualization through the descriptions. I'm heavily visual, but I get there in pretty different ways.
Yeah.
And Eleanor responds, yes, a lot of my difficulty with especially guided visualization is having to revamp the image in my head as I go along because I'm not sure where I'm headed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of my problem with guided visualizations is like, you get into it and then your spirits are like, let's go here. And you're like, but I'm reading this script.
Right. Please stay on script. Please. I don't know where we're going. This is also why having somebody in your guided meditation who knows what the fuck they're doing and can actually monitor you while you're doing it is good.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And then there's something about the primality of it regarding the backdoor stuff. Yeah. And listen, there is a character limit here. Yeah. No, it's there's something to that. So like off the top of my head, fine, I will consider writing that book about what that's like. The Spirits with Spirits thing, I will honestly, having talked with them about it a little bit, I will probably tag Indy to help me with that at some point. And
I don't recall what's in this glass. It's amber colored.
You'll find out. And then Eleanor says, me in a guided meditation. Caradwin busting in like, hey! Caradwin.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
In my interactions with her, yeah, that's 100% on par. That is, that's nice. You wanted to do a thing. We're doing something else.
I've had that experience with a certain other god.
Several
other gods, I should say. Yeah. You know what that is? That is what another. It's a mead. It's really good. It's Chaucer's pomegranate.
Oh, neat! I haven't had that. I've had a couple of Chaucers and not that one. That's interesting.
It's good.
Jason says part of your job as a guide in a guided meditation is also to deter spirits from side roading. Yeah, no. Having done actually guided meditations and stuff with Jason, he's actually really quite good at that. And yeah. And Emily says yes with 3 exclamation points to tagging Indy. We need to have Indy back on at some point too.
We do. Sorry, excuse me.
You're good. But yeah. So besides the book, what have you been up to?
Work. See, we went up to Oklahoma and then Nebraska to get a U-Haul and bring my partner Emily's stuff back from her folks. That was a good trip. Let's see, what else have I been up to since we had Rena Torres on? One of the things that came through really loud and clear was to go into it would require a lot of backstory, but long story short is that I need to start talking with more people in different communities. This is a very heavy push from Odin to talk with elders in different communities, to talk with spirit workers in other communities, which is cool because we're having a Mudang Jen from TikTok on our show on AGF next week.
Nice. That's
awesome. I'm really excited. Apparently, her and David She know each other, which is really cool. So we're going to have Mudang Jen on. We're going to have... this is the other thing that's really in my life right now is gearing up for the end of an era around Grandfather Fire.
Right.
Don't know if you want to go into that here.
That's up to you.
I am fine with it. So for those who haven't heard the episode yet, we're still debating on how we want to release it.
I was going to say, that's the other thing. Do you want to get into the other thing that we talked about with that episode?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. We are still talking about it.
We'll hold off on that then.
But long story short, because it's actually semi-public now, I feel okay talking about it. Around Grandfather Fire is going to be just hosted by myself come the new year. So Caitlin and Jim's last episode is going to be in the beginning of December, and then we're going to go on our Yuletide New Year's break, and then
and then it's just you after that.
and then it's just me.
Yeah.
Then it's just me.
Which my understanding is Jim's going to stick around to help with some of the back end work for a while. But
He is. We're going to do, because there's so many audio and other files and so much back end stuff to process through, he's going to stick around for a little bit. But I'm also trying to not make him stick around because I know that he needs to do things on his own, and I know that he needs to walk his own path. And as much as I'm going to miss both of them, I understand.
Yeah.
Having been there myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, this isn't the first time we've put down roots and then had to walk away from something, but I'm really happy to be continuing the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that viscerally, Eleanor. Like, like, yay on the one hand, but I am fucking terrified on the other.
Yeah. Eleanor says, let's pop it just.
Oh, oops.
Nope,
My bad.
Oof. I mean, yay, Sarenth, but I'm gonna miss their voices and insights.
Me too.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be, and that's not to say that you're a bad host. It's just you don't have their perspectives, and it's gonna be really. The show will miss their perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah. The show is probably going to change, at least a bit.
Quite drastically.
Yeah, because I don't have Jim or Caitlin's perspective, experience, or understanding of things.
Yeah.
But that also means that there's an opportunity for me to expand in different ways. I've got like 24 people that I'm going to be trying to get a hold of before the end of this year. Nice. I got a list of people that I'm going to try and get on the show, so I'm not talking to myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and do solo for at least a little, like maybe the first 1 or 3 months, just to see what that's like. But we'll see.
Yeah. And you're going to make decisions as you go.
Yeah. So something else that Emily just reminded me of was pocket boats.
Oh yeah.
So Kat Heath turned us onto this with the Guatavi Grid stuff as well, which I think I talked about in a previous episode, which is a method of contacting the dead.
You didn't on here, you did on AGF.
Okay, so long story short, the Guatavi Grid...
Brief version.
Yeah, very brief, very fucking brief, because there was like a 2-hour fucking lecture, 4-hour lecture on this. Guatavi Grid was found in Guatavi, Sweden, and it's basically what amounts to a complex that was oriented in a northeast-southwest fashion, which is a traditional burial fashion. And this grid was laid on top of it, and it's a series of 9 lines. Weird. So Kat looked at this and went, I wonder, drew the lines on a tarp, sat down, and did some spirit work with it, and boom, we get to talk to dead people almost immediately. Yeah, really fucking cool. So I've tried the method. It works really great. Another method that has been recently suggested is using a boat in the shape of a grave marker in a similar fashion, because there are some graves in the old country where the markers are laid out with rocks in the shape of a boat, and then people are buried in it.
Oh yeah, burial boats are a big thing. That's a huge thing, all the way from, I believe, migration era.
Yes. Sometimes they're buried literally under boats, and then there's a stone boat built around them, almost like a boat in a boat.
Yeah. For those not familiar, migration era is pre-Norse. This would be like Proto-Norse.
Proto-Norse, Proto-Germanic, even.
Yeah, like this would be way back, and then we hit
earlier than 300 CE.
Yeah,
like far earlier. Like we're talking like before written history.
Yeah.
Yes, Guatavi Grid gives a similar feeling to entering a mound per Kat Heath. I find that as I was wood burning the leather for these, because Kat uses big fucking tarps. We so far have miniaturized it, and I wood burn. Well, I don't wood burn. I burn it into leather because you can wrap it up and carry it with you. So I've done a Guatavi Grid in leather, and I've done 2 boats. I've done 2 Guatavi Grids in leather and 2 boats in leather now, and I get the same vibes from them, or at least similar enough. So this is definitely a method of contacting the dead. And instead of going and journeying in spirit and putting your various soul parts at risk, it's a way of bringing the dead to you. It's like bringing the mound to you. Instead of going to a graveyard at fuck this o'clock in the morning, which can get you picked up for trespassing, you can use this method to contact the dead.
See, and this is 100%.
Yeah.
Different methods for different folks, and absolutely, this is not me ragging on your method. This is not that. It's just I've listened to you talk about the boats and the Gotabi grid and stuff so many times, and every time I'm just like, God, that sounds like so much work. I could just go myself.
I get it, but you have protection. You know what the fuck you're doing.
And a lot of, and this is me coming from my perspective, and I know that, and I tried to caveat before that, and like I know that, and it's part of a lot of what I do is intentionally transgressional, right? Like,
right.
I go places I'm not. What's the big thing? What's the big rule with Sather work and contacting the dead is you don't go into their realm.
Right.
So
of course, you go.
I do.
I don't need to listen to that shit.
Absolutely.
Those rights are for other people.
Right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, is that a rule? Absolutely. Am I breaking that rule? Yes. Is that dangerous as hell? Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know what you're doing. That's the difference, though.
Yeah. And it's one of those, do I recommend this? No, don't do that. That's fucking dumb. I still do it.
I love you. I love you, Ulfkin.
I didn't say I was smart. I just, shit works sometimes.
Got a bunch of awesome comments. Hang on. I recently listened to the episode of AGF with Erica Buenaflora. It was really cool to hear how many parallels there were between practitioners coming from different cultural perspectives. Yes, loved her book. Loved interviewing her. I was thinking, one of the other things, I forgot to mention this, that I'm doing is I'm going through all of our AGF episode descriptions and I'm looking at who I want to have back on.
Oh, yeah, no. That's
like, oh, cool. If I can, schedule out months in advance. Go to the clear ancestors. Go to the FD. If I can schedule this months out in advance, great. I don't have to deal with this shit. And one of the things that I love is bringing folks like Erica on and having her share her perspective.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking on solo host. AGF has been a big part of helping expand my views. That's amazing, and that really warms my heart. And also, like, I hope I can continue that trend. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, AGF was instrumental for me when I was starting out. Like, and is still, like, I get fucking my head blown off every third episode or so. Like,
I'm happy to hear that. Like, because like sometimes it's like, oh my god, is anybody out there? Just let me know if you can hear me.
Then we had Gotabi Grid gives a similar feeling to entering Mound per Cat Heath. Mm-hmm. And Cat's tarps and tent idea is so big brain I'm still reeling. No, I really like that from Cat Heath's episode on AGF. Then we have the boats are also a place to meet and feast with the dead. I wanted pocket size for travel. And we also have stones to anchor and expand them to big size, which is that's a really neat idea.
Yeah, that was I think that was off Emily's own bat on that one.
Yeah. And then Jason says, listening to AGF is still is like landmines. It is usually fine, and then oops, brain explodes and tears. Or tears, or both. Yeah, probably both.
I honestly feel the same way about, especially since it was just the two of us. The show has definitely taken on. 3-Pod has definitely kind of found its stride in a big way.
Yeah,
I feel very similar with regard to that because sometimes I've walked away from episodes and gone, well, fuck, now I have homework.
Right. Yeah.
It's fun but frustrating when you walk away from your own show and go, fuck, I've got shit to do.
Right. That happens more than I'd like to admit.
I'm laughing at Jason's last comment. Let's go with both.
Tears and tears. Your brain's tearing and you're crying. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. it's one of the joys about doing this show that we get to meet so many different people and have so many different perspectives, and in some ways realize, while we may not see everything eye to eye or one to one, and not everything translates all the time, there's everybody's doing their own work, and everybody's work is valuable in the degree that they're doing it, and you know, it's in a sense, it's really edifying when we bring guests on. They're like, "Oh no, that makes total sense." Like there's a form of validation there that just really kind of makes my heart sing. And I think that looking for validation in everything is a dangerous trap. But there's also nothing wrong with looking for validation in and of itself, because we're fucking human and we form communities for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and like everyone's got, even if so, like using the example we just talked about, like the grid and the boats and stuff, that would absolutely not work for me. I would be, it 100% wouldn't. But at the same time, I'm doing packwork and I'm really entering into this era where I'm starting to look at, all right, I want to be not just, I want to be doing ritual work with this again. I want to be,
Right.
what are the protocols? What is this? Let's do practical shit, hands in the dirt. Let's get shit done with this. Because
so you come out of the largely experimental foray in, you've kind of mapped the territory, and now you're like, okay, this is what the territory looks like.
yeah, in large part. So like for me, where I'm at right now is we're coming to the end of, not quite out of, but coming to the end of a big season of a bunch of people wrapping up initiations.
Right.
Including myself. I just went through a pretty big initiation with Freyr. That's not directly pack related. But I mean, it's me, so everything's pack related, but that's not the point. Like, that's just kind of how that works, right? It's kind of like,
Right.
you know, when you have a big event, your family's there. That's what happens. I
can see why that was 97.
Anyway, I say because I also don't speak to my biological family, but that's not the point. Anyway,
well, honestly, if you don't mind me saying, that's been kind of part of your journey too.
Oh, it absolutely has. No, it's it.
And I don't mean to like put you on blast or anything.
No, absolutely. That's been a big part of.
But you had to learn to value yourself enough to where you were like, I am worth peace.
Yeah.
And I love that for you, as much as that sucked.
No, and it was hard. It was, and there's shit.
It's hard.
Yeah, it was hard, and it's still hard. But you know, like moving on slightly, because there was a point I was trying to get to.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're not. That's how conversation goes. So there's been this big kind of season of initiations and preparing for initiations. You know, we've had this year. We've had two people initiate in. A third initiation for someone who was already in but had a secondary initiation they needed to go through.
Right.
Another person is doing some tangential initiations. I don't want to speak for them. Anyway, tangential initiations. They were almost initiating in and then decided that's not what they wanted to do, which is good.
Which is good. That's good. That's good. That shows amazing maturity.
Yes, absolutely. I was like, good. I'm glad that you made the decision that was right for you. And they're still initiating, just not initiating in. They're doing some tangential work.
Right.
Which is another person this year found that they were initiating, even though they didn't quite, like, they thought they were, but they hadn't confirmed it, and then they confirmed it. They haven't finished, but they are. Let's see what else. Oh, another person approached me and was like, hey, I'm thinking about it. What would this entail for me? So I did that divination for them. Oh, another person is doing what looks like an initiatory cycle. Like, no, I'm serious. These are all separate people.
So what you're saying is the pack is busy.
It is very busy. It's been a lot, and we're kind of hitting the middle of the end of this kind of cycle of a bunch of people initiating in and doing their thing.
Right.
And now that I'm past this big initiation with Freyr, I really am at this point where I want to be not even just like driving new, like figuring out what the map is, but like, all right, neat. What the fuck do I do with this now?
Right.
Which like I've done, and this it's cyclical, right? Like I've been there before, and I'm back here again. And that's where I'm at with it. Is like neat. So you're doing stuff with Kotabi Grid. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to be developing these other rituals over here, and they're not one to one. They don't look the same, but they're still ritual structures. Like
I think it's interesting that you're developing new ritual structures on your own, whereas a lot of the ones that I'm bringing in are other people's or are inspired by other folks, which isn't a bad thing. I just think it's really interesting.
Well, and to be completely fair, there is nothing new under the sun, and some of the rituals that like me and some other members have talked through, and I've only done the theory work behind it and haven't done, they've done some of the practical work and I haven't yet. I need to. Is developed like one of the things is based off of some stuff that's in Six Ways by Aiden Watcher. And you know, like it's there is always going to be influence from other things in your work, right? Like that's unavoidable. So I'm not going to sit here and claim that it's entirely novel. But yeah, there is the thing where like you're reaching back and bringing in things that are pretty strictly from outside.
Right.
And on the flip side, I'm pushing ahead. And there's nothing wrong with either one, right? Like I'm driving forward and you're bringing things from the past into the modern. And that's, both of those are equally valuable.
It's almost like that's how traditions work.
Wild.
Really quick, I want to get some listener comments. Every fucking time I listen to 3 Pop in the last months, I hate homework. I got things to do, lol. Welcome to our world. I love that perspective on I Am Worth Peace. Yeah, me too. It's a learning curve, especially for Odin's folks.
It's honestly, I don't like, yes, but also I think that's for everyone. It is really hard.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. No arguments there. Chasing our tails, as it were. Yes. Looks over at the rituals development. I will get to these later. I get that feeling.
I can't wait for Jason's rituals to get developed because those are genuinely going to be fun. Like I'm very much looking forward to those. Having been at some of Jason's rituals in the past.
Hey, Jason, by the way, we need to butcher another thing just for shits, grins, and getting together.
Oh, yeah, please. I will happily
Trailblazing and road repaving both are needed. I agree. And to a certain degree, I honestly think that trailblazing is less needed at this moment because so many trails have been blazed. I'm saying this like, let me back the train up just a touch bit. I think the wide swath of European-oriented U.S. pagan groups don't need to blaze any more trails because now you're getting to other people's trails.
Yeah.
You need to look at your own shit and figure out what you're going to work with and what you're not. It's something that I keep coming across, like even as I'm listening to stuff by Robin Wall Kimmerer, the 2017 Indigenous Peoples Conference that I just listened to. They keep on pushing us to go back to our own roots instead of taking their shit. Yeah. So like, there's a point at which it's like, are you trailblazing or are you taking other people's trails?
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that European paganism, or oriented paganism, needs to really reckon with and decide on where, okay, not to say that you can't blaze any more trails or that there's nothing to be trod, but just making damn good and sure that you're not ripping off other people's trails. Like just because you don't recognize it as a trail doesn't mean that it's not a trail, right?
Right. Like it's when the English settlers got to the Americas and they're like, oh, look at all this untouched, bountiful land. It's blessed by God to be so bountiful with all this food. And I was like, no, these are fucking
like what?
Right. The indigenous people are like, no, these are just food forests that we've tended for generations. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah.
I would apologize, but I'm not gonna because
this conversation has reminded me I have to email my OBOD mentor tonight. Fuck more homework. Yeah, good luck. And Destiny says white people to stop paving other folks' trails. Really,
Oh God, stop!
we really do need to stop. Also, turns out agriculture is a job. Yeah,
Fucking weird, right?
and it can look more than one way. Just because Europeans were used to flat farm fields does not mean everyone did it that way. Wild.
I think of the food forests here in North America, but I also think of the floating food uh, forests slash gardens that they had in what is now modern day Mexico.
I'm not familiar.
Um, I'm a little buzzed, so pardon me if I'm not remembering this 100%. But I believe in Tenochtitlan there were floating gardens that they would maintain that would sustain their population. I think that was. Um,
Honestly, that sounds right. I'm not super familiar, but that does sound right.
like I said, I'm a little buzzed, and my grasp of this area of the world is not as great as it is, say, Iceland. Step-tiered farming, yeah, that's another excellent example.
Yeah. Jason said step-tiered farming is a joy to look at. It really is. And the people who are like, "Oh, this is proof that giants were here because big stairway." No, it's step-tiered farming. Jesus fucking Christ. He would be mad at you. Shut the fuck up.
Just because you can't figure out what's done doesn't mean fucking aliens and giants did it.
Right? Anyway, catch-up episode. I want to get to... Fuck, I lost my train of thought.
Oh,
the
no.
things that I have been doing was the train of thought, and it's gone. God damn, I can't even remember my own life.
Was it pack oriented?
Yes and no. I'm gonna just start from the beginning. So work. I am almost at the end of my internship at the clinical lab. Ends about the middle of the month, right about at my birthday, actually, on November 17th. Well, it technically ends on the 18th, but that's a Saturday, so it's the 17th. So that's a big thing. And from there, I can start working on, once I get all the paperwork filled out and get the paperwork submitted and then get the paperwork back, I can then register for and start working towards sitting for my boards for my clinical laboratory technician boards.
Ooh, neat.
Which is, or medical laboratory technician, because the fucking terminology has changed like 6 times in the last 10 years.
It does.
So MLT, which is different than MT, which is medical technologist, which used to be...
So you're going for MLT, which is medical lab tech?
Yeah, medical lab tech is the one that I'm applying for, which is the 2-year degree certification, even though I have a 4-year degree, which puts me in a weird spot. But then there's the MLS or the MT, which are interchangeable, which is medical laboratory scientist or medical technologist, which is the 4-year certification for the 4-year degree. Yeah. Again, the terminology has changed many times in the last like 10 years, and it's really annoying for everyone because a bunch of people who are still in the field are certified under different things, and it's like, what of this is equivalent? Also, I found out recently there's not 1 or 2, there are 3 main certifying boards for med lab techs, and
what the fuck is wrong with this industry?
So there are. It's because
I mean, besides the fact that it's profit driven.
It's profit driven and it's only quasi government regulated. So none of these certifications.
Oh, fucking fabulous!
None of these certifications are coming from the government. All of them are coming from
third-party
organizations. So you've got the ASCP, which is the big, most prestigious one. American Society of, I don't remember, something College of Pathologists. Anyway, ASCP is the big, prestigious one. Then you've got the AMT, which is the second most known one, which is the American the Association of Medical Technologists, or American Medical Technology. One of those. That's the one I'm getting registered under because it fits better with my situation.
Dog, I'm just nodding.
Then you've got AAB, which used to be ABB, So it's the American Association of Bioanalysts, which used to be the American Board of Bioanalysts. All of them do the same thing in slightly different ways, and it's so bad. And as long as you're registered with any of the three, you are fine per government standards.
Jesus fuck.
It's so, and different hospitals require different certifications. Everyone takes ASCP.
I need more booze for this shit.
Everyone takes ASCP because they're the most prestigious. Most people also take AMT. I don't know about AAB because I only just found that they existed, and I'm not worrying about it. I'm gonna stick with AMT at least for now. But it is a nightmare, and that is not even getting into the nightmare that is Joint Commission, CLIA, CAP.
Fuck Joint Commission. Like, I know they're needed, but goddamn.
Yeah, and it's fun because the Joint Commission is the government, CLIA, and CAP joining together to do actual government things. It's a fucking nightmare. And yes, Jason, do we want to bitch about quality acronyms? No, we're gonna actually save that for the after party, but all of the medical field, especially clinical laboratory stuff, is a nightmare of acronyms, and all of it is stuff you need to know, and it's a fucking shit show. I hate it so much.
I'm not anywhere near the same field as you. I'm not, but I feel your pain because of the amount of bullshit we have to go through because of the Michigan Mental Health Code.
Yep.
And because of Joint Commission, and because we are technically oriented under SHA guidelines and not under prison guidelines, despite what we do.
Yep.
It makes my job so much easier, if you will. Harder and easier in the same blow because we get all this stupid bullshit from SHA and none of the benefits that we would if we were operating this shit like a prison.
And it's funny because most hospitals work under the Joint Commission. So that is CLIA, the government, and CAP, which is a third-party organization, working together. And the Joint Commission is less strict in almost every case than CAP by itself. Because CAP is what most of the medical labs, at least that I've worked under, have been under.
I get it, because pleasing Joint Commission is not like pleasing the department or oh god, I can't remember what our other certifying body is, but JCO is the big one.
Yeah. So Joint Commission is actually relatively easy to satisfy for most things. So on the one hand, it's like, oh, this is actually relatively easy compared to just CAP, or even CAP equals College of American Pathologists. They're not under ISO, Jason. Actually, that's not. They work with ISO. CAP works with ISO for that one standard. But
you want to explain that one? Because I know the fuck ISO is, because I'm not in your field.
That's actually a separate accrediting body for other scientific labs and a bunch of other shit. They are partially under the FDA, and also CLIA is its own bastard. It's a whole shit show. It's a whole shit show of overlapping accreditations from third party and government organizations. Anyway, yeah, it's a nightmare.
Real quick, I remember overhead pages saying, "We welcome the Joint Commission Day," which was code for "oh shit."
And that's what that is. Yeah. And the Joint Commission
is at the door for a restaurant.
Right, and Joint Commission isn't just over laboratories; it's over the entire
hospitals, administration shit.
Is also under JCO, and so are RNs and doctors and everyone else. Everybody's
under fucking JCO if you interact with the human body at some point.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a fucking nightmare, and it's both easier and harder because, on the one hand, JCO is less strict than CAP, and I've worked under CAP, and I've worked under ISO, and ISO 17025, which is one of the ISO standards, is a fucking nightmare. I look at some of the things that people that I'm working beside now under JCO are like, man, this is a lot of regulation. And I'm like, you have no fucking idea. Fucking don't come for me.
Turns out mixing creamy root beer with spiced cider, just as a side note, is really fucking good.
I'm not surprised.
I am, because I haven't done it before. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, it's like also you have to get registered under these third-party personnel accrediting bodies that are just complete bullshit. And it's like,
oh, it sounds like our poor nurses having to do the accreditation programs for all the shit they have to do.
yeah, and it's the same thing. And like, don't get me wrong, like very much like lab technicians, RNs, everyone like that, you do need to be accredited. Like it is important that you be accredited because there is shit that you need to know. Yes, this is the point where I say I make pretty pictures. Where it says, I put books on shelves. Yep, and that's wonderful, and I love you both for it. And I'm sorry that I'm going on this rant because it's a nightmare.
It's a catch-up episode. You knew what you signed up for.
Yep, you knew what you signed up for. Exactly. But yeah, no, it's a nightmare. But it's also like very genuinely, like it is also very important that we make sure that people know what they're doing when they're interacting with the human body. Because again, like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, I released blood products today that went into someone's veins today.
The old saw for why is OSHA needed is because all of those rules are written in blood. In your case, Malik, it's literally true.
Yes, quite literally. Like the number of people who have died so that we can figure out what the fuck blood typing is genuinely astronomical. It is way too high. And it's like,
we're not shitting on these as requirements per se, but the point to which they get bloated is the problem, right?
Right, and it's not a problem that we have certifications for laboratory techs. That's very important.
No.
The problem is we have 3 different third-party, not-for-profit organizations that are all doing the exact same thing for slightly different price points and slightly different methods, but they're all genuinely doing the same thing. And it's like, that's completely unnecessary. Also, why are you third-party private individuals doing this and not the government? What the fuck? And also, their requirements are different than the government's requirements, except for when you're in a hospital, and then it's the government requires that you deal with these third-party people to do it. What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. And also,
are a motherfucker.
And if the hospital sends out this work to a non-hospital organization that is not under JCAHO, then I don't need any of this certification. I can just have a bachelor's degree in biology and do all of this shit for funsies.
Right.
It's so.
Finn's like, you talk about labs and dealing with them. I have to deal with NAD's ACP, National Aerospace and Defense Contractors Accreditation Program. Auditors is fucking great.
Yep.
My mom was IgA deficient. She had an allergic reaction to blood type coming from folks with the same blood type. Like, and this is why we need to know what the fuck.
And that was the thing that I learned about during my internship. Like, that was a big thing. Like, IgA deficiency is a huge issue for the very small slice of the population that has that. It's a huge goddamn issue. And if you don't know that your patient has that, it's a nightmare.
Absolutely. Because it doesn't make any sense as to why are they rejecting this blood? Well, they're not actually. They're just allergic to it.
Well, and and that is kind of a rejection. It's a whole,
well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
No, I do. It's and it's a whole thing.
Complicated.
And it is very. Human bodies are complicated.
Fucking weird. Turns out that we're not machines. And you can't just plug this fucking Chevy engine in this bitch and make the chassis run. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I encounter this a lot with mental health issues, where people be like, well, they had the Seroquel, why didn't they do the thing? Well, they had the lithium, why didn't they do the thing? Do you know that the human brain is fucking wired different?
Right.
Like, depending on your personal life experiences, your genetics, and like a host of other fucking profiles that none of these medicines are required to target.
Right. So it's all extremely complicated, and I'm dealing with all of that, and that's a huge thing. And I will continue to deal with that for at least the next year. As I get through the internship, get all of my paperwork submitted, get that approval back, get through any other third hoops that they want me to jump through, and then get ready for my boards, and then take my boards, and then get approved. And like, it's going to be a while. It's going to be a process.
As we rant and bitch about work, I feel like it's incumbent to say, because we're talking about a podcast / video show, Three Pagans on Tap. Like, I don't leave my ethics and spirituality at the door, this shit comes with me, which is why I can get so passionate about patient care.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Because I don't leave myself at the fucking door when I walk in. Now, granted, I try my best to leave work at work and home at home,
but you're still
a fucking person.
Exactly. And like my ideals of community and taking care of each other and all of that, like the pack doesn't leave me because I walked into the hospital.
Right. Wolf's gone.
Right? Like, no, that's not how this shit works.
We shall not enter the hospital. This is the forbidden place for wolves.
Right? Like, no, that's not how that shit works. Like, when I walk into the hospital, they call me by a different name. They call me by my government name, but like, I'm still me. That's how that shit works.
Right.
You know, so that's a whole thing that I've been doing.
I believe I'm gonna like hurt if a patient calls me Saren, but
right. You know, if somebody calls me Malik at work, I'm gonna be like, how do you know that name? Who are you? What the fuck is happening? But you know,
it's amazing how much security a pseudonym provides you. Like, seriously, everyone should have one. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to see a literal physical wolf if I go to the hospital. You don't.
But it'd be cool.
You know, spiritual wolves. It's fine. So dealing with that, still, like, I'm pretty settled in this house. There's always issues when you live in anywhere. You know,
trust
to deal with it. My heat went out for a couple days recently, right when it got cold. Naturally,
of course.
So, you know, that was fun to deal with. I'm still working on the garden. Got to put that down. Had that big initiation with Freyr. That was fun. I'm very sorry you missed that. That was.
So am I. I'm very disappointed I missed it.
Yeah.
However, if I hadn't, I would not have been able to go to Oklahoma or to Nebraska.
Yeah, and I'm glad you got to do that instead. That was important for you to do. All these initiations that I've been either doing divination for or participating in, it's been busy.
It has been very busy. Like this last year has been incredibly crunch, and not in a crunch way like with the video game industry, but just like very. There's a lot of shit to do.
Yeah, no, it really has. Oh yes,
completely like okay. Sarah's missed it, but all self-attended, which is fucking funny. But really quick before I forget again.
Yes.
Next episode.
Yes, next episode. That's another thing that I want to talk about. So next episode is going to be the thing that we've been talking about for like 6-8 months at least. Very tangentially, but that's not the point. We are doing, and we do not have a date nailed down yet, and we haven't invited anyone yet. Please, if you know me personally, you will be getting probably Discord message soon.
Assume if you're in the Discord at this point, just tag yourselves.
Yeah, honestly, like there's going to be at least 5 or 6 people that we're inviting. Not everyone needs to come. It's fine. Like if no one can make it but me and Sarah, we will still have a good time. I'm expecting a lot of people will still be able to make it. Going to be sending out invites really soon. We are doing a big storytelling ritual for the last end of year episode for Three Pagans on Tap. The idea is roughly we are going to have a fire and tell stories and myths around that fire. Some of these stories will be things that we have experienced. Some of these stories will be myths and fairy tales and legends and things like that. And some of these
your own stories. Just you don't have to make shit off your own head. These don't have to be extemporaneous. You can read written stuff. That's totally fine.
And I will be reading several of the myths that I've written and published on my blog. Another thing that will be a big part of this ritual is telling things that we want to happen, telling stories of the future. In particular, there is one myth that I actually, now we are getting towards December. I really need to get off my ass and get this written. Is there a story that...
Don't feel alone, Finn. You're not the only one that gets homework from these.
Right, no shit. There is a story that I am writing that is literally part of the title is a myth of the future. And part of the point of this ritual is we are telling stories that will happen. They might not happen exactly how we tell them, but they will happen. Just as myths didn't necessarily happen exactly how we tell them. They're myths. That's the point. Quite literally bringing the magic of myth making of the past and the present and myth making of the future and bringing that into this ritual and making shit happen through storytelling.
Every time you tell a story, the story lives again. So,
Yeah.
like, for those of you who are worried, like, I don't know if the story's good enough, the story lives again in you through the telling, and it's good. So please, if you have a story to share, if you have a tale to tell, if you have folklore to share, if you have a personal story or something that you feel in the future must come to be, share it.
Yeah. And we will almost certainly open up a specific channel in the Discord for those stories to be shared if people want to. And very likely it will be a time limited channel that we will archive after a certain amount of time, probably after January.
I was going to say after January is probably going to be our hit for that.
Yeah, just so folks have time to get those stories in if they want to. And then those stories will be archived and they will become myth. And we might do it again next year. We'll see.
Turns out when you're slightly drunk, spelling is hard.
Yep, turns out. So yeah, folks who know who you are, and if you don't know who you are, keep an eye on your inbox anyway.
Okay, I generated the text section in our Discord. Oh, for those of you who have not signed up for our Discord, please do so.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do.
Because we want to have you around the fire. Because even if you don't have anything to share, the fact that you're listening and bearing witness is important, deeply.
Yeah. And so we'll be sending out those invites. We'll be having that conversation with folks. Again, it's no pressure. If folks can't make it, that's fine. And it's not necessarily going to be just an in-person thing. I would like to have people in person if possible, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. In fact, one of the people are going to invite is across the country. They're almost certainly not going to make it. So, that's what happens. So we're going to do what we can. And that's kind of how this goes.
So we're coming to about an hour and a half into this episode. Yes. Is there anything that we want to leave our listeners with?
Take care of yourselves. Fascism is bad. Bigotry is bad. I don't know. It's been a wild fucking year. I'm looking forward to the next 2 months.
I think for me, the big thing that I want all of our listeners to take away from is whether you gather around your own fire or whether you gather around a digital one, gather around the fire, share your stories, and be in sacred space with yourself and with other people. Even if all those other people are Ginregen, or God's ancestors in Vathir, that is still community that you're building with. That is still beings that you are building relationship with. And I think that for me is like the sustaining thing, no matter whether it's here at home, here at work, with others in the community. The sustaining thing for me is always having that connection, that relationship, that gavo, gift for gift. So for me, I would like to leave that with all of you, is that whether you're coming around the fire to share something or whether you're just coming around the fire to enjoy the vibes, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, your presence is enough, and that's it. Like, if all you did today was make it to tonight, good. Glad to have
you. You are required to do no more, no less than
that. Yeah, good. I'm glad to have you here.
And I hope to see you, as many of you as you can make it in the after party.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right. I did drop, because a couple people asked, I did drop an invite to the Discord into the chat.
Excellent.
All right, y'all. Yeah, we've been at this almost an hour and 40 minutes.
I need to go to first.
Sorry for the oops earlier. This has been a ranty, rambly episode, but that's what we signed up for. So
we did. And, next episode is going to be a storytelling episode, so it's going to be a bit more structured.
Yeah. Also, worth noting, the next episode, I'm going to specifically be taking time off for, if at all possible. The other thing is we don't have the date nailed down yet because we have to line up times off and stuff.
It's going to be
yeah. Because it's going to be if possible, I want to have it on the longest night, but I don't know for sure that it's going to be a thing.
Hang on, a hot tick.
Yep.
Just so folks know, like, check your calendars. The longest night is Thursday the 21st. For some folks, that's going to work. For some folks, that's not going to work. For me, honestly, it will work because I already checked if I could take that night off. That night is completely full.
Okay.
Unless I call it.
Yeah. So you and I will figure out when we can both do it, and then we will find that out. And we'll hit other people up.
Watch the Discord and the Patreon space.
Say one more time. I did not process.
I said watch the Discord and the Patreon space.
Yep. But yeah, we'll let
see you all in the after party.
Yeah. But yeah, the next episode is likely to be at least a couple of hours, if not 3 or more. So
it does depend on how long it takes folks to talk. So, like, if you can't stay for the whole thing, do not feel bad about having to check yourself out. Like, it's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because the live stream is always going to be available on YouTube once we're finished.
Exactly. All right, folks. We will see you in the after party if you can be there. If not, we will see you next time. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Good night, folks.